The story of Ip Man 3 begins in a world where tradition and modern ambition collide, creating a silent storm around a man who has devoted his life to discipline, integrity, and calm mastery. The legend of Ip Man has already traveled through whispers, through cities changed by violence, and through the hearts of students seeking guidance in a time when identity is reshaped by both cultural pride and foreign influence. This third chapter arrives with a deeper tone than its predecessors, focusing not only on martial skill, but on the emotional weight carried by a quiet hero whose journey is defined by restraint rather than dominance. Hong Kong, now dressed in the changing light of the 1950s, becomes the arena where this new conflict unfolds. The city breathes with uncertainty as new forces press against the cultural foundations of martial arts schools. Neighborhoods grow crowded, businesses rise and fall overnight, and foreign investors begin circling the land, seeking influence and power. Beneath this shifting landscape stands Ip Man, a figure of unwavering calm, who continues teaching Wing Chun not as a method of fighting, but as a path toward balance and respect. Yet even the most peaceful practitioners are eventually pulled into storms they never sought. The tranquility surrounding Ip Man begins to fracture as criminal groups move to seize control of the area. Their ambition is simple: take land, intimidate schools, and reshape the community under force. What begins as an attempt to claim a local primary school evolves into a wide-reaching battle for cultural preservation. The city watches as threats grow stronger, and the lines between authority, corruption, and resistance blur. The local masters understand that confronting these attackers is not merely self-defense, it is the protection of children, teachers, and the values that define their community. The narrative intensifies through a sequence of escalating tensions. Attacks on the school ignite a wave of fear, and Ip Man becomes drawn into a battle he never wished to fight. His motivations are not rooted in glory or reputation, but in safeguarding the innocent. His presence offers reassurance to those surrounded by intimidation, yet his involvement attracts greater danger. Opposing forces escalate their methods, applying greater pressure on the neighborhood, and treating the community's dignity as expendable. The story's emotional heartbeat strengthens as Ip Man stands firm against chaos, while simultaneously navigating his responsibilities at home. Responsibilities that hold far greater emotional weight than any physical confrontation. One of the film's strongest elements lies in portraying Ip Man as a human being rather than an untouchable figure. While the world around him demands force, he carries a quiet internal struggle. The realization that his dedication to martial arts must share space with the delicate threads of family life. His wife, Wing Sing, becomes the emotional anchor of the story, and her presence carries a depth that transforms the film's tone. Every scene involving her reminds the audience that a hero is not defined by his victories, but by what he risks losing. As challenges intensify, the internal conflict within Ip Man becomes as dramatic as any physical battle. As the film builds, another martial presence emerges. Chang Tin-chi, a talented Wing Chun practitioner with ambitions that stretch far beyond mere survival. His rising presence adds a dual layer to the narrative, a reflection of Ip Man's early years and a parallel path carved by pride and hunger. Chang desires recognition, respect, and the elevation of his own school. He walks a path shaped by frustration and ambition, and while his skill earns admiration, his motivations differ greatly from Ip Man's peaceful philosophy. This narrative contrast sets the stage for a powerful rivalry that fuels the second half of the film. In the background of the story, Hong Kong's social evolution mirrors the growth of these conflicts. Crime groups expand their influence. Foreign powerhouses, represented symbolically through ambitious entrepreneurs, begin looking at the city not through cultural appreciation, but economic opportunity. This incoming wave of modernization shifts the dynamic between martial arts schools. Some seek integrity, some survival, and others power. In such an environment, Ip Man's presence becomes both a symbol of resistance and a target for those who fear the influence of humility. The film's action sequences are crafted with a level of precision that defines the Ip Man series. But beyond the movement of fists and fluid coordination of Wing Chun forms, the emotional intent behind every encounter speaks louder than the physicality. These fights are never driven by ego. They are reflections of ethics. A philosophy built around self-control, protection, and grounded spirit creates a narrative where every strike stands for something deeper. This emotional richness has made the franchise one of the most respected in modern martial arts cinema. Ip Man 3 also carries a significant legacy within the franchise, as it brings Donnie Yen into a more introspective version of the character. Released in 2015, the film was widely recognized for its deeply emotional storyline, its refined choreography, and its respectful portrayal of martial tradition during a transformative era. Its ratings remain strong across international platforms, with many praising its humanity and the depth added to Ip Man's character. At the box office, the film performed extremely well, especially across Asian markets, becoming one of the highest-earning martial arts films of its decade. Its financial success reinforced global interest in the Ip Man series and solidified its reputation as a modern classic. Behind the scenes, the production achieved remarkable accomplishments. The choreography, led by Yun Ping, integrated traditional Wing Chun techniques with cinematic storytelling, ensuring that every movement spoke to the audience as clearly as words. The production team worked meticulously to recreate the visual atmosphere of 1950s Hong Kong, capturing both its elegance and its turbulence. The emotional performances, especially in portraying Ip Man's family life, elevated the film beyond typical action cinema. Awards and nominations across Asia credited the film's choreography, design, and emotional weight. As Part 1 closes, the world of Ip Man 3 stands at the edge of escalating conflict. Crime groups grow bolder, neighborhood safety hangs in the balance, and Chang Tin-chi's ambition begins simmering beneath the surface. Meanwhile, hidden beneath Ip Man's quiet strength lies a far heavier challenge, one that will reveal the true meaning of loyalty, love, and sacrifice. Part 2 will continue with the full conclusion, emotional turn, final confrontations, legacy, facts, and closing narration.
The second half of Ip Man 3 brings the story into its emotional core, where battles shift from the streets of Hong Kong to the private spaces of the heart. What began as a struggle to protect a community now transforms into a confrontation with the fragility of life itself. The threats outside intensify, but the deeper challenge arises from within the Ip household, where love, devotion, and fear intertwine more powerfully than any physical enemy. This is where the film reveals its strongest foundation, not in the mastery of martial arts, but in the bonds that define a man's true purpose. As tensions escalate around the school and criminal forces tighten their control, Ip Man finds the balance of his world shifting. His wife, Wing Sing, faces a devastating diagnosis, one that demands immediate attention, compassion, and time that no warrior can manufacture, no matter how strong his resolve. The discovery reshapes every decision he must make. Suddenly, the noise of conflict outside becomes small compared to the uncertainty surrounding the person he values most. The film subtly guides the viewer into a quieter realm, where Ip Man's greatest struggle becomes choosing between public duty and personal devotion. The criminal pressures continue to rise as the antagonists attempt new methods to dominate the area. Yet, even as the danger grows, Ip Man's heart returns repeatedly to his wife's side. The film shifts in tone, highlighting the delicate contrast between the chaos of the outside world and the quiet love within their home. The Wing Chun master's spirit is tested, not by violence, but by the fear of losing the person who has supported him through every challenge, every hardship, and every triumph throughout the series. His strength becomes defined not by the battles he fights, but by the sacrifices he makes. Meanwhile, Chang Tin-chi's ambition reaches a critical point. His desire for recognition leaves him searching for ways to elevate his status beyond Ip Man's shadow. Every victory he achieves feeds this hunger, pushing him onto a path shaped by pride and determination. The community begins to notice his talent, yet the respect he gains does not satisfy his deeper need for validation. The contrast between the two masters grows sharper, one seeking purpose through humility, the other reaching upward through reputation and personal achievement. This tension becomes the foundation for the story's final arc. As the criminal networks expand their influence, the looming conflict leads to a series of confrontations that push Ip Man back into the fray despite his desire to stay close to his wife. He fights not to prove mastery, but to secure peace quickly enough to return to her side. The urgency in his movements reflect a man torn between two worlds, one demanding he protect the community, the other pleading for his presence at home. The film's choreography in these scenes carries emotional weight beyond the physical exchanges, blending grace with desperation and discipline with heartfelt purpose. Chong Tian-chi's path crosses Ip Man's in a way that sets the stage for one of the most emotionally charged final encounters in the franchise. The growing rivalry becomes symbolic rather than personal, a clash between differing philosophies, differing motivations, and differing understandings of what martial arts truly represent. Chong Tian-chi seeks the crown of Wing Chun supremacy, believing recognition is the ultimate measure of success. Ip Man, meanwhile, carries a far more grounded truth, that mastery has nothing to do with reputation and everything to do with character. When the final confrontation eventually arrives, it is framed not as a battle of fury, but as a philosophical conclusion. The clash between the two masters becomes a representation of internal values: humility, respect, family, and the responsibility that comes with skill. The fight is executed with breathtaking choreography, each movement reflecting years of discipline and training. The scene becomes a dance of precision and contrasting ideals, and though only one man stands victorious, the moment is never about dominance. Instead, it is a reminder that strength guided by purpose surpasses strength driven by ego. After the dust settles, the story returns to its emotional center. Ip Man chooses to spend every remaining moment with his wife. The film's message solidifies. Even the greatest master must confront the inevitability of loss, and true devotion is not measured by triumphs in battle, but by the love one gives when the world grows quiet. The simplicity of this final stretch carries more emotional weight than all the confrontations that came before it. It reveals the real heart of the franchise, a celebration of integrity, honor, and family. Ip Man 3 concludes by honoring the legacy of the historical Ip Man, acknowledging the influence he left on martial arts and the students he inspired. The film pays tribute to the real-life connection between Ip Man and his most famous student, Bruce Lee, reinforcing the cultural impact of Wing Chun across generations. Though this chapter in the franchise stands on its own, it also acts as a bridge to the larger cultural world shaped by martial philosophy and discipline. In terms of impact, Ip Man 3 became one of the most commercially successful films in the series. It earned hundreds of millions across global markets, particularly in Asia and North America, propelled by strong fan reception and critical praise. The movie received numerous award nominations for choreography, art direction, action design, and emotional storytelling. Its ratings remain solid across major film platforms, with audiences appreciating both its heartfelt narrative and its refined fight sequences. Critics widely acknowledge that this installment achieved a balance between dramatic depth and martial arts excellence, making it one of the most respected entries in the Ip Man franchise. Behind the scenes, the production captured extraordinary achievements. The team reconstructed an immersive 1950s Hong Kong streetscape, creating an atmosphere that blended authenticity with cinematic flair. Donnie Yen's physical preparation, combined with his emotional performance, elevated the character to new heights. The intricate fight choreography supervised by Yin Wu-ping showcased Wing Chun with stunning precision while maintaining a narrative purpose for each movement. These details contributed to the lasting influence on modern martial arts cinema. As the narration of this installment concludes, the legacy of Ip Man 3 stands firm, a story of loyalty, sacrifice, wisdom, and emotional strength. It reveals a master not through the force of his fists, but through the resilience of his heart. The man at the center of this tale is not glorified through invincibility, but honored through humanity. His journey reminds audiences that the greatest battles are fought not on streets or in dojos, but in the quiet spaces of life, where love and responsibility shape every decision. And thus, the chapter closes, peaceful, reflective, and emotionally rich, leaving behind a legacy of discipline, compassion, and timeless martial philosophy that continues to inspire the world long after the final frame fades.